We often talk about the big picture, but sometimes it's the invisible stuff, the hidden components that really run the show.
That's so true.
And today, we're diving into one of those carboxylic acids.
Yeah.
Maybe not a household name, but wow, are they vital across so many industries?
Absolutely. We're digging into a recent market report on them, and it's pretty eye-opening just how widespread these compounds are. I mean, keeping food fresh, enabling new medicines, they're everywhere, even if you don't see them.
Okay, so carboxylic acid. Let's just quickly baseline this. For anyone listening, what are we fundamentally talking about, chemically?
Right. So basically, they're organic molecules. The key thing is they have what's called a carboxyl group.
Okay.
And that group gives them specific properties, like they tend to boil at higher temperatures than water, which is interesting, strong bonds between the molecules.
Ah, okay.
And they are acidic, they can release a hydrogen atom, but generally they're weaker than, say, the strong mineral acids like hydrochloric acid, you might remember.
Got it. So strong enough for the job, but not like super aggressive acids usually.
Exactly.
Now, our mission today with this report,
Mm.
what are we trying to unpack for you, the listener?
We really want to pull out the most important bits from this report, give you a clear sense of the global market, how big it is now, where it's heading, who the main companies are, and the big trends shaping things. Make it all, easy to grasp.
And accessible. And we've gone through this pretty dense market research report, so you don't have to. So
Okay.
let's get straight to it. The big picture, market size, growth. What are the numbers telling us?
Okay, so the report projects the global market size to be about USD 18,240 million in 2025.
19 billion.
Okay, and looking forward.
Looking out to 2033, it's expected to climb to, let's see, USD 26,744.14 million.
Wow. Okay, that's quite a jump. What does that work out to in terms of annual growth?
That gives us a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR, of 4.90% between 2025 and 2033.
Almost 5% a year. That's pretty solid, consistent growth.
It really is, yeah, a steady upward trend. So what's pushing this? What's the main engine behind this nearly 5% growth?
Well, one really key driver the report mentions is the growing need for better lubricants. Think high-performance ones.
Right.
Industries need lubricants that resist corrosion, won't catch fire easily, and increasingly are non-toxic, better for the environment, safer for workers, and carboxylic acids are crucial for making those.
That makes total sense. More advanced tech, more focus on safety and environment leads to demand for better materials. Okay, let's break it down by region. Where's the action happening geographically?
Right now, North America is the leader. It holds the biggest share, actually over 40% of the market in 2025. That's about USD 6,748.80 million.
Over 40%. That's dominant. Why North America?
Well, the report points to a couple of things. They have a really well-established food and beverage industry, which uses a lot of these acids, especially as preservatives.
Ah, okay. Processed foods and drinks.
Exactly. Plus, strong pharmaceutical and personal care sectors, too. They're big consumers. The growth rate there, the CAGR, is projected at 3.7%.
Okay, 3.7%. Still growing, but maybe more mature. What about Europe?
Europe's also a major player, over 30% market share in 2025. That's around USD 5,289.60 million. And interestingly, the same projected CGR as North America, 3.7%.
So North America and Europe together, that's like what, 70% of the market?
Roughly, yeah. They're the current powerhouses.
So where's the most dynamic growth happening then?
That would be the Asia-Pacific region, APAC. They hold around 23% share in 2025, which is about USD 4,377.60 million. But here's the key thing. Their projected CAGR is 7.6%.
7.6. Okay, that's significantly higher. What's fueling that fire in APAC?
It's really driven by rapid industrialization happening across the region. You've got booming manufacturing in places like China, think textiles, electronics, and India's pharmaceutical production is expanding fast.
Right.
Plus, you just have huge population growth and rising consumer demand overall. It's a very dynamic picture.
Definitely sounds like it. Okay, what about the other regions? South America, Middle East, Africa, how do they fit in?
So South America has just over 5% share, around USD 693 million, with a pretty healthy CGR of 5.2%. Brazil's big agricultural sector is a key factor there.
Agriculture, interesting.
Then the Middle East, around 2% share, roughly USD 730 million, growing at 5.4% CAGR. Think expanding food processing in places like Qatar, growing demand in Turkey.
Okay.
And Africa is the smallest, around 1% share, about USD 401 million, growing at 4.6%. Nigeria's growing food and beverage industry is mentioned there.
Okay, so different stories everywhere driven by local factors. Let's zoom in on the actual chemicals. You mentioned a few. Acetic acid, propionic. Which ones are the big deals in this market?
Yeah, the report lists quite a few. Acetic, propionic, butyric, isobutyric, valeric, isovaleric, proic acid.
A whole family. Is there a clear leader? Or maybe one that's growing particularly fast?
Well, acetic acid is definitely expected to stay dominant.
That's vinegar, right? Or used in it.
Yeah, that's the most common association. But industrially, its big use is making something called vinyl acetate monomer, or VAM.
VAM. Okay, what's that used for?
It's fundamental for making lots of adhesives, paints, coatings, stuff the building and automotive industries rely on heavily. Acetic acid is also a stepping stone to making other chemicals. It's a real workhorse.
The workhorse. Got it. Any others making waves? You mentioned propionic acid.
Yes, propionic acid is flagged as the fastest growing segment. Its main job is as a preservative, particularly in food and beverages. It's really good at stopping mold and bacteria.
Keeping things fresh on the shelf.
Exactly. Think baked goods especially. And with global demand for packaged processed foods just going up and up, the need for propionic acid is rising sharply. It also pops up in some plastics and personal care items.
Right, so propionic acid is riding that convenience food wave. Okay, let's flip it. Who's using all these acids? What are the main end-user industries?
The report lists several key ones, food and beverages, obviously, then animal feed, flavors and fragrances, material sciences, life sciences like pharma and lubricants, which we touched on earlier.
And is there one sector that uses the most?
Food and beverage definitely takes the largest share currently. As we said, preservatives, but also for tartness, controlling acidity like citric acid in drinks, and even flavoring like acetic acid in vinegar. The demand for processed, convenient foods is just a massive driver here.
Our modern diets, basically.
Yeah.
Directly impacting chemical demand.
Pretty much, yeah.
What about other big users? You mentioned life sciences.
Yeah, life science is growing really rapidly in terms of consumption. Carboxylic acids are essential for making APIs, the active pharmaceutical ingredients.
The actual medicine part of the pill?
Exactly. And also as excipients, the other stuff in the formulation that helps deliver the drug. With aging populations globally and more lifestyle-related diseases, the demand for pharmaceuticals is just climbing, pulling demand for these acids with it. And interestingly, there's growing buzz around butyric acid for potential health benefits itself.
Fascinating. So preserving food, making medicines. Incredibly versatile.
Hmm.
Okay, we've touched on drivers, but let's summarize the main forces pushing this market forward.
Okay, three main things stand out in the report. First, a really big one, the demand for greener, bio-based products.
Sustainability.
Right, there's growing interest in acids made from plants, lower carbon footprint, Second, just the sheer growth in those end-user industries, pharma, food, cosmetics, textiles, they're all expanding. And third, ongoing R&D. Lots of investment, finding new uses, better ways to make these acids. That keeps fueling growth.
That sustainability push is really hitting everywhere, isn't it? Even basic chemicals.
It really is.
Okay, but it can't all be smooth sailing. What are the headwinds, the challenges or restraints this market faces?
There are a couple of significant ones. Environmental regulations are getting stricter globally.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so manufacturers have to invest more in cleaner production, better waste handling. That adds costs, especially for some older methods, like making acetic acid from methanol that comes from fossil fuels. Stricter emission rules are biting there.
So the cost of going green, basically.
Kind of. And the other point is potential health hazards. Some acids need careful handling, and concerns about safety could potentially slow down adoption in certain areas if not managed well.
Right. Balancing progress with safety and environmental impact, that's a constant theme. Looking forward, then, what trends are shaping the future here?
Well, we're definitely seeing the continued rise of pharma and personal care. We mentioned propionic acid as an antifungal in cosmetics, butyric acid in medicine. Those are becoming more important.
Okay.
Another big trend is formic acid in agriculture. It's being used more as a preservative and antibacterial agent in animal feed.
Why is that growing?
Well, with the global population rising, we need more efficient food production, right? Better animal feed helps. Formic acid also has uses in treating textiles and leather.
Okay, so formic acid is another one to watch. This sounds like a busy market. What about the companies involved? Is it concentrated or fragmented?
It's described as highly competitive. You've got the big global chemical giants, but also quite a few smaller, maybe more regional or specialized companies.
Can you name a few key players mentioned?
Sure, the report lists companies like BASF, Celanese Corporation, Dow, Leon Delbecel, some really big names.
The usual suspects in chemicals.
Yeah. And also Eastman Chemical, Thermalite Chemicals, Alpha Ezer, Oshark Alcochem, Fine Tech Industry, OXEA, Vandemark, Shenyang Zhangming Chemical, VVF, LLC, and Perstorp. It's quite a list.
A real mix then.
Yeah.
Any recent news or moves that kind of illustrate what's happening?
Yeah, a few interesting examples. BASF, late last year, started supplying some key chemicals with a much lower carbon footprint, showing that sustainability push in action.
Right.
Eastman teamed up with a cosmetics packaging company, Icon CE Sales, on a recyclable compact using recycled materials. Again, that circular economy sustainable angle.
Okay.
And more recently, March 2024, a Chinese company, Jiangsu SPO Chemical, announced a big investment in a new plant for vinyl acetate and EVA, showing continued strong demand for those acetic acid derivatives.
Those examples really bring the trends to life. Sustainability, recycling, ongoing demand in key areas.
Okay, let's circle back quickly to the regions. We said North America dominates now. Why again, exactly?
It's that combination of a large, mature food and beverage sector needing preservatives and acidulants, plus strong pharma and personal care industries. And they've also been relatively proactive in adopting bio-based options, partly due to consumer demand and some regulations.
And Asia Pacific, the fastest grower. Remind us why.
Just that rapid industrial growth across the board, boosting manufacturing demand, plus huge population growth driving consumer markets for food, medicine, personal care. And supportive government policies and R&D investment in places like China and India really help too.
So, established base versus rapid catch-up and expansion. Makes sense. Any interesting nuggets from specific countries?
Yeah, definitely. Like in North America, the U.S. is the giant, over $5 billion in 2025, growing at 3.5%. Environmental rules are a big influence there. Canada's growing faster, 4.5% CAGR, driven by its food processing needs.
Over in APAC, China's the leader, nearly $2 billion market size, 7.1% growth, fueled by its manufacturing and consumer base. But India has the highest growth rate in APAC, 9.5% CAGR. There's a real push towards sustainable bio-based production there.
Wow, 9.5% for India. That's impressive.
It is. Then you have Brazil leading South America, 5.8% growth, helped by its strong agriculture. And in Europe, the UK has seen a notable shift towards bio-based acids, growing at 4.5%. Germany, a huge market, over $1 billion, growing at 3.9%, also operating under strong environmental regs.
Those specifics really add color, show how the global picture is made up of these distinct local dynamics.
Exactly. Different pressures, different strengths in each place.
Okay, let's try and wrap this up. If you had to boil down the key takeaways from this deep dive into carboxylic acid, what would they be?
I'd say, 1, it's a big market, over $18 billion and growing steadily at nearly 5% a year. 2, that growth comes from a whole range of industries. Lubricants, food, pharma are key, and it's increasingly shaped by the push for sustainability. 3, regionally, North America leads now, but Asia Pacific is where the fastest action is. And 4, product-wise, acetic acid is king, but keep an eye on propionic acid's rapid growth.
So these seemingly simple chemicals are actually central to a massive, dynamic global market, influencing everything from how long our food lasts to how well machines run.
That sums it up perfectly. They're fundamental building blocks, really.
This has been fascinating, really shedding light on a hidden but crucial part of our industrial world. So here's a final thought to leave you with. Think about that tension, that interplay between stricter environmental rules, consumers wanting greener products, and the chemical industry innovating. Where does that lead? What breakthroughs or maybe unexpected challenges pop up? And also with Asia Pacific growing so fast, how does that shift the whole global manufacturing and supply chain map over the next decade? Maybe look into some of those companies we mentioned or specific uses.
Yeah.
There's a lot more chemistry and business packed into these acids than you might first think.